Hi everybody, it's Mr. Christopher at the Nicholas Conservatory and Gardens. Today I want to talk to you about a special group of plants. Now, plants are part of our daily lives. You've seen plants. Maybe you even have a plant in your house, maybe in your garden. Plants are living things, and in order for those plants to grow, to reproduce, to survive, just like you and me, they need some stuff to eat. And that's why I want to talk to you today about plant nutrients. So this chart shows the different sorts of things that plants need in order to survive. There's blue ones, there's red ones, green ones, and yellow ones. Let me explain. The ones in blue are what we call non-fertilizer elements. These are things that the plant can get from photosynthesis. That little trick that plants do where they take air and sunlight and water and turn it into food for themselves? Well, that's what those elements are. Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, they can get that all from photosynthesis. So they don't really need to worry about that too much. The ones in red are what we call micronutrients. Plants need only tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of these things, so we're not going to worry about them a whole lot today. The ones in yellow are secondary nutrients. Again, things that plants don't need a whole lot of. But the ones in green, these are the primary nutrients. We're talking about nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK. In fact, if you're ever at the garden store and you look at a bag of fertilizer, it will have these letters NPK because nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are so important to plants. Now, most plants get their nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium from the soil. Their roots absorb those nutrients from the ground, and then that plant is happy, has everything it needs. But what if you were a plant growing in soil that didn't have these things? You still need them. How are you going to get them? Well, there's one group of plants that came up with an amazing adaptation. We're talking about carnivorous plants. Plants that eat animals. The whole idea behind a carnivorous plant, it is a plant that has learned how to trap an animal, keep that animal, and eat that animal. Now, let me clarify. When I'm talking about animals here, I'm not talking about human beings and elephants. No, nothing that big. Mostly we're talking about insects, maybe some small reptiles, small amphibians, small mammals, but we're talking mostly about small animals. So don't worry if you come visit us that you're going to get eaten by one of these plants. That is just not going to happen. Now, the plants can be grouped in different ways. One of the ways that we group carnivorous plants is based on how they trap their prey. These two are what we call sticky traps. These two types of plants are going to use a really sticky chemical to trap and hold those insects. This one is what we call a snap trap. It's going to actually move to grab and hold that insect. And these are what we call pitfall traps. It has something that the insect falls into and has a hard time getting out of. So there's different methods here to trap insects. Now, there are two other ways that carnivorous plants can do this. One we call a bladder trap, and one we call a lobster pot trap. Both of those are traps that you typically find in aquatic plants, that is, plants that live in the water. And I am afraid I don't have any of those to show you today. But I can tell you that the bladderwort carnivorous plant uses a suction to slurp a bug into it. And the water wheel plant has a complicated maze that insects can get into, but can't figure out how to get out of. Let's talk a little bit more about these sticky traps. Let's talk a little bit more about these plants. This plant right here is called the butterwort, and this one over here is called the sundew. Both the butterwort and the sundew are going to lure their prey in with the promise of a sweet, tasty nectar. But as soon as the insect touches this plant, the trap is set. In this case, we're talking about a sticky trap. On the butterwort, the entire surface of the leaf is covered with a sticky, sticky goo. Now, if you touch it, it probably doesn't feel terribly sticky to you, But again, this is not a trap designed to catch a human, it's a trap designed to catch a tiny, tiny little bug. In fact, there's a tiny bug stuck to a leaf right here. Now when that bug lands on the leaf, it gets stuck, it can't get away, and then the plant is going to secrete some digestive juices to slowly eat that bug right there on the leaf. The sundew does it in a similar way, but with one added bonus. When an insect lands on the sundew leaf, there are all these tiny little hairs. These tiny little hairs have the sticky stuff on the end of them. Not only does the sticky stuff trap the bug, but those hairs can detect that the bug is nearby. And what will happen is when there's prey in the leaf will start to slowly roll up to help with the digestive process. Now it is important to understand that even though this one does roll up around the insect, it does it very slowly. It takes hours. So this one is not reaching out and grabbing anything. We call this one a passive trap because it doesn't do anything to move, and we call this one a semi-active trap because it does move, but very, very slowly. Either case here, we're talking about a sticky, sticky trap. One of the most famous carnivorous plants that maybe you have heard of is this one right here, the Venus flytrap. This is the one that most people think about when they think about a plant that eats animals, probably because it does it in the most dramatic way. This is a very active trap, meaning that the plant moves to catch the insect. Now, when I say the plant moves, I don't mean that the whole plant moves. We're talking specifically about these little pieces right here. The end of the leaf has a special shape that can allow it to quickly flip inside out. As it flips inside out, it can shut very, very quickly. The question is, how does this plant know when it's time to shut the trap? It does it in a pretty smart way. On the inside, there are tiny, tiny little hairs. If one of those hairs gets bumped, the plant starts paying close attention. But it doesn't do anything yet, because it might have just been a gentle breeze, maybe a raindrop. But if that plant gets a bump in one of its hairs a second time, then the trap snaps shut, because the plant figures it's probably something crawling around on the inside of that leaf. Now when the trap shuts, it shuts fast and then slow. What I mean is, it's going to quickly grab the insect and then slowly seal the insect inside. We're going to see if we can get this Venus flytrap to shut. If you come visit the conservatory, and I hope you do, or if you ever see a Venus flytrap in the wild, please don't try to get it to close. It's actually kind of a mean thing to do to the plant because you make it go through all the work, but it doesn't get a meal out of it. That can actually starve the plant pretty quickly and make it really sad. But just for you guys today, we'll try it one time. All right, I'm gonna try to tickle the hairs of this plant with a paintbrush, and there we go. All right, that was pretty cool. I've got two more plants to show you today. This one is called the Trumpet Plant, and this one is called the Pitcher Plant. And they're both beautiful and kind of unassuming, but again, these are both carnivorous plants. Now these are passive traps. They're not gonna reach out and grab anything. They're not gonna move at all. So how do they catch their prey? With a pitfall. Each one of these plants is going to create an aroma, a scent that is irresistible to bugs. When that insect flies around and lands near the top is specially designed to be extra slippery. And as that insect crawls around to try to get that sweet nectar, it's gonna slip. And when it slips, it can go one of two ways. Either it can fall to the outside of the plant or fall to the inside of the plant. Any insect that falls to the inside is in for some trouble. At the bottom of the trap is a liquid. Now that liquid is a little bit sticky, So any bug that falls in there is going to have a hard time trying to get out. But maybe they will. Even if they do, climbing the wall on the inside here is a really difficult prospect. Imagine doing a climbing wall at the gym, but all the handholds are loose, and every time you grab one, it falls off. You'll never make it to the top. The same thing happens here. The inside of this is coated with waxy scales, and they're loose. So as an insect starts to climb, it keeps falling apart, and that insect repeatedly winds up back in the sticky liquid. Sooner or later, it's going to be too much, it's going to drown, and then the plant digests and eats that prey. The pitcher plant does it in a very similar fashion. Now with the pitcher plant and with the trumpet plant, some people notice this little lid on the top, and they think that when a bug falls in, that the lid closes to keep them inside. But that's simply not true. This lid never closes. So why is it there? Well, it's actually like a little umbrella. These plants live in places where there's quite a bit of rainfall. The sticky liquid inside, if you add too much water to it, won't be very sticky anymore. So this little lid is an umbrella to keep extra rain out. A little water can get in, but not too much, thank you. So our trumpet plant and our pitcher plant are going to be out there catching bugs today. So hopefully this gave you an idea of all the different adaptations that plants have for capturing their prey. Whether it's a pitfall trap, a sticky trap, a snap trap, something that's active, something that's passive, lots of different methods for catching and eating those nutrient-rich little bugs. Now I'm going to turn you over to Miss Sela, and she's going to tell you about a project where you can design a carnivorous plant of your own.
Hi, this is Siwa down at NCG. We are going to be going over the activity for our Carnivorous Plants ball and cup game. This is the things that you'll receive. We'll have a cup and we have a little bag. Inside of our little bag we have some contents. All right, we have some purple contact paper that has some shapes on here. You'll see a little bit more about that in a minute. We have instructions so that if you want to read along or whatever suits you, we have instructions. We have some string and we have a fly. All right, so what you're going to start with is your cup. All right, we have our string and we are going to use the hole provided in this cup to attach our string. Can be a little hard to tie. If you need help, you got buddies or adults near you, I'm sure they'll be able to help you. All right, so that's attached. We are going to attach our fly to the other end. This side is definitely a little trickier, but when all else fails, tie a knot and grab some scissors. All right, so we have our fly and our string attached to our cup. The last little bit is the purple contact paper, and you can do some decorating, whatever suits you best. We have our kind of surprise finished one here. And you can see some of the things that you might want to do with your contact paper. This is just to help you get in the mood for what a carnivorous plant might look like. I know you guys talked about some of the parts, and these could be some of the hairs that don't let you back out in a lobster pot trap or anything like that. So have fun. Hey!